All right, everybody, welcome back. I just wanted to give an update on the Exoset since we did take it all the way out to the tail of the dragon, and I just wanted to kind of do a total overview of the build and what I thought of it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to just kind of go over things start to finish on the build here so I can let you know what I thought of the build and several things about driving it. I mean, driving it, the summary is just awesome. I mean, we put the turbo on it. It probably would have been fine without the turbo as just a, zipping around kind of fun thing that you could build yourself. But man, oh man, putting that Flying Miata turbo on there, wowzers, this thing is just wicked. So I'm going to sit down, take a couple minutes and talk about it. At the end, I will throw in some more clips of us at the tail of the dragon in North Carolina and some of the other roads that we went and explored while we were there. But anyways, this is kind of an overview summary. If you're thinking about building one of these on your own, maybe you want to listen to this for some pointers and thoughts that I had on doing this thing. So anyways, thanks for coming back. If you got any questions, drop a comment. I'd be happy to answer them. So that being said, I'm going to turn the camera around here. I'm going to point at some things, walk you around a little bit, and show you the build here. So let's get right to it. All right, so here is the Exoset. My donor vehicle was a 1999 Mazda Miata NB. So I am not a Miata expert, but they are grouped, or they're generations, so to speak. There's NA, NB, and C. I don't know the years of all those things. I know that mine is a 99, and I think NB was 1999 to 2005. So basically, I kind of did some research and I was thinking about building something for fun. If you look at some of the other videos on my channel, I have some older vehicles, a 1937 Chevy, which is chassis swapped onto an S10, 1946 Chevy pickup, which is a rat rod kind of looking thing. So I have a lot of experience building those things. Never have I built anything with a turbo intercooler thing or anything like that. Everything else I have is old. So this was a change of pace for me. So I just want to go over a couple of mechanical things and kind of show and tell on how I did this build. So I'm going to, I think, sit down just to talk for a minute, and then I will get back to more of the show and tell kind of stuff for this particular vehicle. All right, so I'll tell you a couple things about the build. First off, you read the website and they claim that, you can do it in 100 hours and, it's a pretty easy chassis swap. You take the Miata body off, you bolt this thing on there, and you're pretty much ready to go. I made it a little more complicated by adding the turbo, which added some time to it. Could you do it in 100 hours? I suppose if you're looking for something very basic and you just want to take the Mazda Miata body off and put this chassis on, that's fine. But there's going to be a lot of different things that you're going to need to figure out on your own. So with myself and my buddy Joe, who was helping, we were able to actually knock this thing out with the dedicated work on this chassis in a couple of weeks. That didn't include the time me alone taking the Miata apart, but you need to include that obviously in the build. Also, Joe is an expert at doing the wiring stuff, so probably we could have just taken the stock Miata wiring harness and put it into the wiring tray that you can purchase from Exoset. And that would save you time because you're not disassembling, you're not thinning out the wires. Actually, let me show you this. This is just some of the stuff that Joe, went on, he gave the Miata a crash diet and removed a whole lot of this stuff. All the HVAC stuff is gone. Any extraneous wires we didn't need, airbags, that kind of thing, wipers, all that kind of stuff is gone totally. So that thinned out the wiring harness a lot, but unless you're gonna figure this out on your own, you're stuffing that remainder of the harness back into the Exoset. Let me put this down. So that being said, Was it hard? I mean, it was challenging. You wouldn't want this to be the first thing that you're doing. Is if you're like going to build a car, this might not be the first thing you want to try. But I mean, I have worked on cars for years. Like I said, I did the chassis swap for that 37 Chevy onto the S10. I built that other rat rod. So I'm pretty good with a wrench, and Joe is excellent at the wiring and the technological stuff. So the two of us in combination could knock this thing out pretty quick, but there is going to be a lot of fabrication. It doesn't come with seats. It doesn't come with seat mounting brackets. It doesn't come with wheels and tires. You're going to have to figure that out. Maybe you want to add coilovers. I did buy the bushings and suspension, which I didn't do to this before we went to the tail of the Dragon, but you can add that as well. I put the turbo on there. Did you have to? No. Does it make it awesomer? 100%. So things like that you need to consider if you're going to do this build. So just so you're aware, if you're thinking about buying a kit car, you're buying components that then you need to put together yourself. The build guide itself is sketchy at best. Fortunately, the guy who responds to emails, Kevin, is spectacular. I just wish he would take his knowledge, because if you ask him a question or 2 or 3 questions, bam, within a day or so, he's going to hit you back with a response. He's going to have pictures, examples from other builds. This is how somebody else did it. But those bits and pieces, those pieces of knowledge that you need as a builder would be awesome if they were in the build guide itself. The build guide is meh. A lot of details are lacking. You'll notice right now it doesn't have fenders. I have those in a box. I need to put those on because I'm in Pennsylvania. This needs fenders, and to get my enhanced vehicle inspection, I'm going to have to put the fenders on. So anyways, there's more to it than just, here's your instruction sheet. If you follow the instructions from top to bottom, you're going to have a car that's built at the end. There are so many different things you can add. Headlights, turn signals, reverse lights, none of that's included. You have to do it on your own. I added the wing. You don't have to have a wing on it. I used the stock gas tank from the Miata. Maybe you want to do a fuel cell. Totally separate problem. I can't help you with that because I just used the stock gas tank. You're going to have to redo the fuel lines. Probably worth getting the braided kit from Exoset or coming up with a brand new fuel system yourself, because the stock ones won't fit. Maybe you can use bits and pieces of the straight parts of your steel line if your donor car was in good shape. Fortunately, mine was. It really had no rust on any structural components. It already had coilovers done. So basically, I was able to take my body off, save the wiring harness separately, and then put this on there. So was it easy? No. If you're going to do it by yourself in a garage without a lift, can you do it? It's probably going to be a lot more challenging than what I have here, and I'm very fortunate that I have the lift here. So take that into consideration as well. You're going to need several kinds of air tools or electric tools. You're going to need a body saw. You're going to need an impact. You're going to need, a really good wrench set, socket set. This isn't just a, pop it together with a few wrenches kind of deal. So there's definitely modification is what I'm getting at. It's not going to just piece together super easy. Things like the dash pod. The dash pod looks great. It's in there, but you're going to have to cut out the hole for the gauges themselves, put trim around that, find out, how are you going to mount the hardware, because what they send you, it does not really great, didn't really fit that well. Lots of things like that. But in the end, this thing is awesome. I'm super glad I did it. It's going to be awesome to rip around in the summertime with. So, those are my initial thoughts. My 2 cents, I guess. So I'm going to bring you in here and I'll show you a few more details up close of the build so that you kind of have an idea of how I did it. I'm not saying it's the right way. It's just the way I did it. There may be other ways to do it. There's lots of other build videos start to finish that are broken down that I used as references. Unfortunately, there are 0 videos on how to actually attach the fenders for this thing. So I'm going to do that myself, probably in the near future, in the next week or so. I'm going to make a video of how I'm going to attach the fenders, and then, use that as a reference. Maybe you're going to do it different. That's fine. So let me turn my camera around here and kind of show you some of the up close details. All right, so a couple things. So I found some Little turn signals, nothing fancy. I think that was an Amazon or eBay find. Headlights, I actually have to change those because these are just low beams. I did buy high-low DOT approved lights that I have to put on there to pass that enhanced inspection. As I said, the car already came with coilovers, and I was fortunate I could just adjust those a little bit. This thing rides awesome. It's a little bit stiff, but man, this thing can corner really well. Other things you're gonna have to add. To hold this on, I used 4 hood pins, 2 on the front corner here to prevent the front from lifting, 2 on the rear to hold it up. They do send you this piece of Lexan, which, does it stop the wind? Yeah. Super flexible, will not pass in Pennsylvania. I have to have a piece of glass. Funny story there, I did have a piece of glass cut, and it's over here. You'll notice that it didn't make it on the transport all the way to and from North Carolina. That's probably my fault. Should have taken it out for the drive while it was being towed on the trailer. So I'm gonna have to have that piece cut again so I can put it in here. Mirrors, just found some UTV mirrors. Bought those, just bolt them on. 1.75 inch clamps to hold those mirrors on. I am going to have to somehow figure out how to put a wiper motor on this ridiculous thing, because that is part of the enhanced vehicle inspection for the state of Pennsylvania. Maybe your state is different. If you have this in Pennsylvania, I'm gonna have to figure out a way to put that on there. So here we go, got the energy steering wheel. This is the gauge pod. I wish I would have recorded how I did this, but essentially what I did, you get a blank, right? This piece of plastic is blank. And I took the gauges out from the Miata, and I just used blue tape to trace around it, cut the tracing out, put the tape directly onto the gauge pod they send you, and then I used a body saw, an air body saw, to cut the perimeter off of that so that those gauges would fit in there. Then, in addition to that, I had to use a die grinder because there are parts of this that are very, very thick, and you have to thin that out to get any trim on there, which was another challenge. Also, they only give you these 2 front mounting points here to hold that to the steering column. I did add a brace up here. You can see there's 2 fasteners there. I showed it in a previous video. I had to make a brace to connect the front of the gauge pod to the steering column, and now it's super stiff, whereas before it was fluttering around like a butterfly. I just bought a cheap shifter boot. I don't know. It's a Jegs thing, I believe. These are gauges that I've added. There's the air-fuel ratio gauge in the middle, volts on the left, and the boost gauge on the right from Flying Miata. That came with the turbo kit. Otherwise, all of the stock gauges work. We deleted every single emissions thing. There's no evap canisters, no charcoal canister, so check engine light is on because of that, but I don't care. So, seats. I went with the Kirky seats. You can find whatever you want, but you're gonna have to find a way to actually secure these to the Exoset chassis. Can't really see it through the carbonate panel, Lexan panel here. But you can see a little bit the braces that I had to make there to hold it in. Also, you'll notice that the strap for the 5-point harness doesn't go into the one that Exoset placed on there because it would not line up with the center of this where that goes through. So now it lines up directly in the center. Otherwise, it would be offset over here somewhere. So totally had to drill into the frame of the chassis to mount that. Parking brake went in pretty good. Issue is where Exoset, let me try and get in here, where they place the mounting hole for your harness, it's kind of close, it rubs, but when you're parked, there's not going to be any wear on that. Battery box, just made a simple little thing there out of some angle iron and a thing over the top to hold that securely. You're definitely going to have to figure something like that out. I did also have to make seat braces. Probably could have found something like that to purchase online or somewhere else, but it was late and the last minute I had to fabricate these myself. So that did actually require a decent amount of fabrication. I took a piece of 2-inch exhaust pipe, cut it in half so I could clamp that onto the 1.75-inch tube that is the cage for the Exoset, and I bolted it to the back of the seat. You can see that's 1/8 inch plate there on the back of the seat. I just used 1/4-20 bolts from front to back to hold that in place. Welded this support to that, and then I held it on with really horrendous looking exhaust clamps, but nonetheless, they hold it on there. It's fine for now. I did add the wing from 9 Lives Racing. That's not part of the kit. You're not going to get that from Exoset unless you specially order that. I do have a vinyl wrap for it, but it was short notice in getting to the tail of the dragon, so didn't cover that before I left. The filler neck, also a bit of a challenge to get that onto the car because you kind of have to just eyeball where you're going to cut the hole through this thing. It's not the most aesthetic thing, the cover for the gas tank here, but whatever, it works. Let's see, coming around to this side. Oh, you'll notice that, well, I'm 6'5", and when I'm in this, I maxed that out. I could go back a little bit more on that, but then you run into the wing on this seat, Kirky 65, I believe, 65 series. With that wing sticking out there, I had to notch it. You'll see on the passenger side, it's pretty close here. For me to move the other seat back, I had to notch the metal out so it would go around that tube there, so I could push it back as far as possible. So I fit, but it's snug. I mean, part of the reason I built this is because I wanted to have a 5-speed, something fun, convertible to drive around in. I'm just simply too big for a regular Miata, so this was a great solution to that. 5-speed fun for sure. I bought these, excuse me, wheels and tires. They are Falcon Azenis, and they are awesome. They stick really well. I've never had any issues for traction at all with this thing. It is killer, super duper fun. Did add, as I've said several times now, the Flying Miata Stage 1 Turbo. Wow, I mean, talk about fun factor. Holy buckets. I mean, that was twice as expensive as the donor car itself, but man, that thing just, it's so fun. It rips. It really, really is awesome. I really don't know what else to add. I think I just wanted to do a walk around start to finish, tell you kind of some of my thoughts. So what I'm going to do this weekend is going to be pretty minor. I'm going to change the headlights out to the DOT high-low so that those are good for the inspection. And as I said, I'm going to do a whole separate video on trying to figure out how to mount the fenders because I couldn't find any reference for that. No video at all talking about that. And again, the build guide is lacking, so to speak. One last thing I wanted to point out. This right here. So this is the master cylinder for the clutch. And that is the banjo fitting that you can buy from Exoset if you get their braided kit. And that is tight. I don't know how you could make that fit if you didn't get that particular thing from Exoset. That's just something to be aware of. You're going to probably need to do some modification of the lines if you're going to try and use anything but their braided kit from Exoset. So, I don't know. There's just a, brief walk around to the car. My thoughts on it. Again, totally awesome. The thing, I mean, it rips. It's so fun. Just be aware that you're going to be doing a little bit more hands-on. I said it in previous videos. I kind of envisioned a Lego set and Lego instructions. When I got it, I would get all the pieces and I would just, follow steps like a cookbook from start to finish. It's more than that as far as fabrication is concerned. Still not a terrible project. And as far as bang for your buck, holy smokes, this thing is a handful and it is super duper fun. So with that being said, I'll throw in a few more videos from our trip to the tail of the dragon and poke around here in the garage for a little while today. And like I said, if you got any comments about the build itself, or if you have any questions and you're going to be building it yourself, feel free, drop a comment, let me know what you think, or if you have any particular questions, and I will absolutely help out if I can. So there you go. That's my summary. Hope that it helps. And if you do have any questions, let me know. Thanks.